Show. Tune in for a vibrant mix of fashion, finance, and life's essential foundations. Join us for expert interviews, insightful discussions, and empowering insights to elevate your lifestyle. From fashion trends to financial tips and personal growth strategies, we've got you covered. So grab your headphones and get ready to be inspired. Tune in now to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show and embark on this exciting journey with us.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, M. Teresa Lawrence, here on KCAA Broadcasting Network, 1050 AM and 106.5 FM, where we cover over 5 million households in the greater Los Angeles. And we are also affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, NBC Sports as well. You can listen to us every Sunday at 3 p.m. Pacific time on any of your favorite podcast and streaming channels. We are also in Roku TV, Amazon Fire TV, and Android app. Just subscribe to Building Solid Foundations channel. Today on our podcast, we have the fabulous Jeanette McDermott. Jeanette McDermott is an award-winning photojournalist, author, and spiritual storyteller, featured in the 2025 St. Louis Publishers Association anthology. She is a Navy-trained journalist, a former foreign correspondent. She has reported on Ireland's troubles, rainforest destruction in Central America, and the ministries of Catholic sisters worldwide. Today, she champions cruelty-free living, hydration health, sparked by witnessing a man nearly die of dehydration in the jungle, and radiant well-being for women in midlife. This winter, she will document sisters' outreach in the Philippines. And with that, welcome.
Thank you. I love being surrounded by radiant women, so I am thrilled to be on your show.
You have done so many wild things. What is, I mean, let's go back to your story. How did this whole thing begin? I think it's so cool that you were in the Navy and you did all of those things.
Thank you.
So tell us your backstory. How did you get from where you were to where you are now?
Yeah, it's quite the journey. It really is, because I knew when I was 8 years old that I was going to be a foreign news correspondent and a photojournalist. I just knew that. And when I was a little girl, 8 years old, that's when it was really solidified in my mind that that was what I was going to manifest for myself in life. And when I was a little girl, I used to, with my dolls, I would write stories for newspapers and magazines, and I would do layouts. I would create newspapers, and my dolls were my subscribers and my readers and my editors, and I was the editor-in-chief, and it was a lot of fun.
I have to interrupt. How did those, I mean, who was your inspiration for this, or did it just come to you that you were going to do it?
No, you know what the inspiration was? Now, I was born in 1954. Television was new, and we had a television in the house, black and white. And Dad was very, very specific about what we watched. And we grew up on the news with Walter Cronkite, Chet Huntley, David Brinkley, the original, real McCoy journalist before it became what it is today.
So it was an exciting time to watch the news.
Yes, because it was storytelling. It was everything going on in the world with news. And so as a child, I didn't really see it as news or current events. I saw it as stories. And oh my gosh, how exciting to be in these different places telling these amazing stories. So that was just kind of planted in my brain at a very, very young age. And by the time I was 8, I knew rock solid that I was going to be a journalist and a foreign news correspondent. So when the time came, I grew up with all boys. I have 4 whole brothers and 3 half brothers, for a total of like 7 brothers. And it was the kind of household where the boys, got the attention and the girl was just kind of pushed aside. And so college wasn't an opportunity for me. For the boys it was, but not for me. And so I knew to be a journalist, I had to seek another avenue.
Okay, what do you mean it wasn't a choice for you?
It wasn't an option for me, because if anybody in my family was going to go to college, it would have been one of the boys. Dad would have spent money on the boys, not the girl. So it was just the household I grew up in. Yeah, Dad was a Victorian, born 1901. So I had very Victorian standards. And yeah, so I knew for me to fulfill my dream, I had to pursue it on my own. And that's when I decided to go in the military and become a journalist.
And how did your father feel about you joining the military?
Well, it's a sad story, Teresa. It's a really sad story. He disowned me. He told me if I joined the Navy that he would disown me, and no daughter of his was going to go in the military. And I defied him. And like I say, he was very
I'm
Victorian.
like, right now, I'm so proud of you. You chose
I,
to
it,
go. Good
yeah.
for you.
It's been a journey. It's been a journey.
Wow, that is so
So,
well, that's so
and
inspirational.
I had my mother's support, thank goodness, and she defied my dad. I defied my dad. And yeah, so it was contentious. It was contentious. So when I would come home on leave, I'd walk in the front door, dad would walk out the back door, and we never saw each other because he disowned me for defying him. And sadly, he died and we never did reconcile that. He just didn't want to reconcile that. So that part of it is sad, but it was I ended up spending 23 years in the military. I retired with a pension because I loved it so much. I loved the military and the travel and the stories and just the opportunities it provides. Yeah.
That's
One of my favorite stories, I mean, since you kind of like this Navy story,
yeah.
I was a journalist and I was stationed in Puerto Rico and we had a NATO exercise, the Atlantic Treaty Organization, with all the ships from all the NATO alliances in the middle of the Atlantic. And so I was sent to tell the story of this, and I had to be helicoptered onto a ship in order to tell the story. So I'm waiting for my helicopter driver to arrive, pilot, and you'll never guess who it was that came to lift me onto the ship, the HMS Her Majesty ship Hermes, in like 1973 or 4, I think it was. Prince Charles. He was my pilot.
Oh, that is so cool.
And he was a captain in the Navy at the time, so he was just a regular kind of guy. But yeah, he was serving his. So that was
That
just
is
hilarious.
really, really fascinating and
Isn't that
fun.
fun? Yeah, that's just a really fun story.
Okay, I want everybody listening to know that, I feel so honored to have her here because she chose herself and she ended up doing something that she wanted to do. And that's the point of everything that I do, that people should choose themselves and enjoy their life. And it's very obvious that Jeanette has enjoyed her life. So what happened next?
Oh my goodness. Well, I eventually got out of the military, because that's a whole long story, a
But
lot of
no,
different
but wait, you
assignments.
were a photojournalist for
Mhm.
the military.
Yes, here's how that played out. I enlisted in the Navy and got trained. They sent me to schools to get trained in broadcast journalism, radio and television, magazine, newspaper writing. So I got magazine design, layout, and graphics. And then after 13 years in the Navy, I wanted more progression. Rank at that time for women was slow in the Navy, but it was rapid in the Army. So I got out of the Navy and went into the Army and switched branches and then became an officer through officer candidate school. So I went through OCS, got my commission, and then became a public affairs officer in the Army. So, and then just continued on that path of communications and being the spokesperson for things that unfolded. Yeah, so I don't know what else to say about that other than I went to a lot of places and told a lot of stories that were very
And
exciting.
I'm curious as to which of your stories was your favorite one during that part of your life.
Some of it was tragic. I went in during Vietnam, Vietnam War, and I think for me, the most significant, the benchmark for me, I cut my teeth in photojournalism when the POWs came home after the fall of Saigon in 1975. And so they came to, was it 75, 74? Well, anyway, when the POWs were all released, and I was stationed at Naval Air Station Miramar, San Diego. And when they arrived on the tarmac, I was a photojournalist for the Navy at the time, taking those photos and telling the stories of those POWs that had been tortured in Hanoi Hilton and just their whole lives. And that is the most remarkable thing that stands out in my mind in my career as a benchmark
Mhm.
story. And then another one was when I traveled to Ireland. This was not in the military, this was out of the service, but I went to Ireland for a year to tell the stories during the Troubles when the Catholics and Protestants were at war with each other, the border, you know, with the
And
whole,
about what year was that? Do you remember?
that was 83 and 84. 1983 and 84.
And
Yeah,
did you get to interview both sides?
I did. I did. I ended up going to IRA weddings, INLA funerals, prison releases from political prisoners, rallies, all kinds of, yeah, I was very involved in the movement actually as a journalist, documenting all of that. And then I also told fun stories like the thatched roofs in Ireland and the homemade tools and the sheep on grazing on the farms and the rock walls that are built all over, the Aran Islands and getting to the Aran Islands on a little seaweed boat. Yeah, just so I had a lot of stories. I think
Okay.
those are the two that I love the most is Ireland and the POWs coming
Well,
home.
we're going to go back to the power of storytelling when we come back because it's time for a break. But these are just amazing and fascinating stories. So we'll be right back after a break. Thank you.
So this is for growth-focused entrepreneurs. FireUpConnect is ideal for business owners who wants to have access to expert resources, who prioritize visibility and brand positioning.
I love how confident she is in what she does as a brand strategist. She helps other business owners build their business through collaboration and also building their brand.
Build lasting and in meaningful relationship.
I recommend this to anybody who wants to network or just meet new people in business.
Pay attention to what the challenge is, because if you know something of how you can help that person, then you want to have a meeting with them because there's an opportunity there.
I like the collaboration. It's not like most networking events typically, you just go in a room, people just go to who they know. And it's like, this is a little better, it gets you out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So that's what's good about this. That's something I like to see more, like instead of just going to people that's what networking is, something you don't know.
It's nice to be introduced to a new format. This forces us to learn about each other's businesses and get out of our comfort zones and really participate.
We want to make sure that we value our time and we're very intentional and we have a purpose for coming here.
And that's the whole goal of this networking, is to really, get to know each other in a deeper level.
Because not just the surface, not just an acquaintance, not just first time meeting, because this is partnership also. I mean, you're here, you're getting to know each other, you're creating. That's why you have to build lasting and meaningful relationships.
In Karate Legacy and the Power Within, we don't just teach karate techniques, we share the inspiring stories of incredible martial artists. Latino Gonzalez, the father of karate, paved the way for martial arts in the Philippines. His legacy lives on through his sons, Rolando and Roberto Gonzalez, who starred in over 100 Philippine karate movies, captivating audiences and bringing karate to the silver screen. Then we have Patricia Gonzalez, a symbol of strength and resilience. After overcoming her own battles, Patricia's journey embodies the spirit of perseverance. Her story encourages us to face our challenges head-on and emerge victorious. Each character in this book has a unique journey, friends and students who have dedicated their lives to mastering the art of karate. Their shared passion not only deepens their bond, but also strengthens their resolve to uplift one another. Through these compelling stories, Karate Legacy and the Power Within reveals the essence of karate: courage, unity, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Join us in celebrating these extraordinary individuals and discover the strength that lies within you. Grab your copy of Karate Legacy and the Power Within, available now on Amazon.
And we're back with our guest, Janet McDermott. When we left off, she was telling us about her fabulous career in the Navy and then in the Army as a journalist, and her love of storytelling. And now we're going to continue the conversation, and she's going to share her beliefs and on how she sees storytelling as service. And I say this because she has just been recognized as a literary artist in the 2025 St. Louis Publishers Association anthology. And so going from being a journalist to being an author, how do you see that difference? And how do you view storytelling as a service?
Yeah, storytelling has just always been in my blood, just growing up with those stories on the news and telling stories in the military. And then when I got out of the service, I went into corporate communications and told those kind of stories, then nonprofit communications and told ministry type stories. So it's always been about connecting and that, really finding our way, truth telling, really. My kind of storytelling has always been truth telling, documentary films. I've made 7 documentary films. I've always told, journalism type, objective stories. And so it's just always been important for me to be able to pull out of people the truth of who they are and where that has led them in life, kind of like what you're doing with me. And the same, those are my favorite kind of stories, when you really get to the depth and the heart, because that's what connects us. That's really what I think storytelling connects us as humans universally. And it bridges that gap of differentiation and finds that one thing that we're all holding common, and that's our truth, our stories, and who we are as individuals and how that plays out in our lives through our choices and our decisions. And to me, that's very exciting to tell those kinds of stories because they become transformational. And others then can maybe gain some strength and some insight and say, wow, you know what? If she did that, maybe I could do that. If she persevered, if she survived that, if she overcame, what am I afraid of? Maybe I can live my own life, and follow my journey and my path that I'm put on earth to do. So that's kind of what inspires me in storytelling, is getting to the truth and the heart of who we are. And just, I really believe affirming stories carry us through our days and give us the power and strength to persevere in some ways that otherwise maybe we wouldn't, when we can pull from other people. And our stories matter, especially when we share them. It's really important to share our stories.
I absolutely agree. I think that storytelling weaves us together. Um, but I still want the differentiation between journalism and being an author, because it's so, like, how did it make you feel to be published? And how do you feel as a journalist when you're doing that aspect?
Yes, that's a great question because I'm still kind of flying high from it. I just found out I went to the literary festival, the 40th anniversary literary festival in Chicago this past weekend. And while I was there, I got the news that I had been accepted into the anthology as a literary artist. And writing that essay, it may sound like no big deal, but for a journalist, it's a big stretch because you use so much flowery words and synesthesia and metaphors and you weave a story like a storyteller for literary devices. But in journalism, it's the who, what, when, where, why, and how. And it's very formulaic, the inverted pyramid. You start with the lead and the bridge, and you follow the formula, and you get right to the heart of it, and you don't interject your subjectivity. But in literary writing, it's all subjective. So you can say what you want, and you can even embellish it if it's not true all the way. You can make, characters that then carry it forward in new ways. And it felt really awkward at first. I thought, oh my God, this is pathetic. Nobody's going to want this. I mean, this writing is all over the place. It's just so not right. It just felt that awkward to me because it was such a different way of writing. And so when I got accepted, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. So it was a whole new way of expression for me, creative expression, a different kind of truth telling, telling my story of leaving St. Louis to go in the Navy and 38 years later returning because of parasites that I got in the jungle when I was living in the jungle for 3 years off the grid with no electricity, no running water. And I got a lot of, food handling parasites that they couldn't cure in Central America. So the essay is like a hero's journey. It's my journey from leaving St. Louis and being gone almost 4 decades and returning because of parasites. And the reason I came back to St. Louis is because it's the leading parasite research facility in the world. St. Louis University, medical research facility for parasites. In my hometown, I had no idea. So
Wow. Okay.
I know.
Okay, so that story, I'm going to get to the parasites in the next section and the whole and that whole thing. But what's fascinating about what you're sharing is the different types of writing and the ability to tell the story in different words. And the words you use give the story something different. And it is my belief that whatever story we tell is the life that we lead, right? So when we wake up, we get to rewrite our story each and every day. And so for you going from who, what, where, when, right?
Right.
To when people add those words to what they're doing, they're shifting their story. Like because I worked as a lawyer, and I know that when you enter a courtroom, everybody has a filter that filters their who, what, where, and when. And you know that too, because especially when you're talking about your work in Ireland, and at that time you were going back and forth, everybody that you interviewed had a filter.
Yes.
And they were born with that filter, and they have all of these thoughts and beliefs that they grew up with, and it's generational. And so it's much storytelling, and the power of words can shift that. Just
Yes, it does, Teresa. That's really, I love the way you couched that, the way you said that, because it also shifts in your own mind who you now are, and how you can be different in this new, just through a different way of writing. It shifts your mindset and almost sets a whole nother tableau or layer of who you are and stepping into that. Because like when I went to our Publishers Association and we had an event the other night, we all got our photos taken and everything. People are asking different kinds of questions about me as a writer than they did as me as a journalist. And it's like, wow, the questions just kind of came out of left field, like oddball kind of
okay, what
question.
did they ask? What did they ask?
Well, like where did you get your inspiration to tell that piece of your story with such a literary device? With all these kind of flowery word in a very flowing, go around your elbow to get you your thumb, as we would say in journalism, because it's not direct. And it's like, I haven't even thought about that. It just came. I mean, it just happened. The writing came through me, and I didn't even have to put much thought into it. It just poured through me. It's almost like it had been waiting to tell itself, the story in that particular fashion. It's kind of weird. I'm listening to Stephen King on writing right now, how he talks about what it means to be a writer. And he talks about that, how as a fiction writer, when you're developing characters and they come to life, you don't even know where they come from. They just boom, appear, and you grow them and you develop them. And you're like, where did that person come from? And that's how literary writing was for me with this essay. It was just kind of hard to explain.
It seems exciting.
It
Like,
is really excited. Yeah.
And so tell me about the festival. What was it like being there? Who did you meet? Were there heroes there? Were you on a panel?
No, I actually went as an observer to see how other published authors handle themselves, because there were a lot of presenters and panels and booths and tents with authors there and tents with publishers there representing their authors and I went kind of in a fact-finding mode, kind of as a journalist, I really did. And I started interviewing people and what this is all about, because I know that's what I want to do as a writer going forward in this new phase of my writing. And with my book almost finished on the Black Madonna Shrine, I'll be in that, you know, in that tribe of literary, writers. So I went there to fact find, to see how others present themselves, what it looks like, what kinds of questions people ask them, how comfortable they are with their book, how they promote it. And it was good. And I told them about mine, and it's a very supportive community. The writing community is very supportive. So that was thrilled. And I've been asked to enter my photographs into an anthology in Iowa because of a woman I met there. So I'm going to do that. And I'm just going to see where this photojournalism career for the past 5 decades can take me into my new phase.
I'm enjoying the fact that you're saying yes to all of these possibilities. So, but it seems like you've been saying yes your whole life. You said yes to yourself. You went into the Navy, then you went into the Army. And what triggered the shift from journalist to author? Like what? I'm just curious.
Yeah, you know what it was? I was at a meeting at the St. Louis Publishers Association that I had joined to be among other writers in the Writers Guild. And I sat next to a woman and she said, "Tell me about your story. Tell me who you are. What do you do as a writer? Why are you in this association?" So I told her, well, I was in the military, I'm a journalist. And she just kept asking me questions, like interviewing me. And she says, "Oh my gosh, you've got to enter an essay into the anthology," because she's the editor of the anthology. I didn't even know that at the time. And she said, "You've got to enter an essay." I said, "But I don't write essays, I write articles." She says, "No, you just told me an entire essay. You just told me an essay. It wasn't an article, because you use all kinds of flowing language and you just kept weaving it." So I went home that night and I thought, you know what? Why not? By golly, I'm going to do it. I've always kind of wondered what it would be like to be a literary author, and this is my opportunity to give it a shot. So I did.
Okay, so you're going from literary author and then perhaps to a full author of a complete book, and that coming. But we're not going to talk about that right now because we have so much to talk to you about. Oh, but that's so fascinating. So for everybody listening, Jeanette has said yes to everything. She sat down, she saw an opportunity, and she went for it. Now, it has been my experience that people in the military generally don't have the same fear factor that the rest of humanity has, you know, because our military is trained to walk into fear. I mean, am I right?
Absolutely. Yes, 100%. Yeah,
Wow.
right down to live fire exercises, where the weapons are, real bullets are over your head and you learn to low crawl and get through barbed wire and you don't dare put your head up or you get killed. I mean, yeah, you do. You just go through fire and brimstone.
Well, you're one of the rare exceptions. I usually interview a lot of people and they talk about walking through fear. And you were trained to walk through bullets.
And you have to remember, I grew up on a battlefield with all boys, all brothers. So I was trained at an early age to face fear and deal with it.
So this is more of her just finding joy in saying yes to things and just jumping in. And so it's time for a break. And when we get back, we're going to discuss what happened when Jeanette found parasites and all of these things in the jungle, how she experienced somebody dying in the jungle from dehydration, and how her life changed as a result of that. So we will be right back.
So this is for growth-focused entrepreneurs. Fire Up Connect is ideal for business owners who wants to have access to expert resources, who prioritize visibility and brand positioning.
I love how confident she is in what she does as a brand strategist. She helps other business owners build their business through collaboration and also building their brand.
Build lasting and in meaningful relationship.
I recommend this to anybody who wants to network or just meet new people in business.
Pay attention to what the challenge is, because if you know something of how you can help that person, then you want to have a meeting with it because there's an opportunity there.
I like the collaboration. It's not like most networking events typically, you just go in a room, people just go to who they know. And it's like, this is a little better, it gets you out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So that's what's good about this. That's something I like to see more, like instead of just going to people that's what networking is, something you don't know.
It's nice to be introduced to a new format. This forces us to learn about each other's businesses and get out of our comfort zones and really participate.
We want to make sure that we value our time and we're very intentional and we have a purpose for coming here.
And that's the whole goal of this networking, is to really, get to know each other in a deeper level.
Because not just the surface, not just an acquaintance, not just a first-time meeting, because this is partnership also. I mean, you're here, you're getting to know each other, you're creating. That's why you have to build lasting and meaningful relationships.
In Karate Legacy and the Power Within, we don't just teach karate techniques, we share the inspiring stories of incredible martial artists. Latino Gonzalez, the father of karate, paved the way for martial arts in the Philippines. His legacy lives on through his sons, Rolando and Roberto Gonzalez, who starred in over 100 Philippine karate movies, captivating audiences and bringing karate to the silver screen. Then we have Patricia Gonzalez, a symbol of strength and resilience. After overcoming her own battles, Patricia's journey embodies the spirit of perseverance. Her story encourages us to face our challenges head-on and emerge victorious. Each character in this book has a unique journey, friends and students who have dedicated their lives to mastering the art of karate. Their shared passion not only deepens their bond, but also strengthens their resolve to uplift one another. Through these compelling stories, Karate Legacy and the Power Within reveals the essence of karate: courage, unity, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Join us in celebrating these extraordinary individuals and discover the strength that lies within you. Grab your copy of Karate Legacy and the Power Within, available now on Amazon.
And we're back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, M. Teresa Lawrence. We're here with Jeanette McDermott, who in the last section shared her journey from journalist to author. And while she was telling her story, she mentioned how she spent time in South America in the jungles and how she got herself a parasite. And now I want her to share how she got into those jungles in the first place, and how she got the parasites, and what happened as a result of that?
Wow, it's a journey. It's a big story. So I'll try to tell it really fast. So it all started once upon a time with a relationship meltdown, with total betrayal and just horrible, horrible things that I won't go into. Just suffice it to say that it devastated me and shattered my world. So I left my community. I was living in Louisville, Kentucky at the time, and very attached to my community. I'm very community based, and it was a really important community for me. But I left it to go on a mountaintop for 2 years. I ended up on a mountaintop in eastern Kentucky in Appalachia that my friend had, and they weren't living on it, so they let me stay in their log cabin there. And literally for 2 years did primal scream, just screaming and hollering and getting all that rage out of me.
Can you share with the audience what sort of therapy is Primal Scream? And then I think you mentioned off screen earlier that you also did hiking therapy. So if you
Yeah.
could share what those types of
Yes.
therapy are.
I still do hiking therapy and walking therapy. That's
Mm.
great therapy. Primal scream is really when you let your voice really be heard. And most women don't do this because they're afraid of their voice when it starts sounding so angry and rage and you're literally screaming and your face looks like you're on fire and you're just, it's like that. It's like, only really loud. You just can't take it anymore. It's like that. And you just keep doing it and it becomes your therapy because the more you get that fire out of you, the more you get that burning energy of just rage out of you, it's cathartic. It really is. And it's a healing process, but it's not pleasant. And you sure don't want to be around people when you do it. So that's when the mountaintop was just so amazing because I could scream and nobody would be locking me up in an institution in a straitjacket. Try that in the city and see what happens to you. Just saying. But on a mountaintop, you could just let it go. So after 2 years of really hiking and screaming and hiking and screaming and walking through the woods and screaming and just getting it out, I really did get a calling. It was really like a divine inspiration, a God voice that said, you know what, Jeanette, you're done with the screaming. Move on. It's time to leave the mountain and hit the road. And here's what you need to do next. And what that was get my dog in the car and travel around the United States, a cross-country trip, um, staying in monasteries, convents, and abbeys with brothers, monks, and sisters, and nuns, and priests
What
telling their stories.
what had you choose the religious institutions to stay at?
Yeah, I got hooked into what we call the Nun Network in 2006 when I was gardening in my front yard on a hot summer day, pouring sweat and a lot of gardening because I'm a big gardener, so my gardens are massive. And a woman walks by and she says, "Boy, you sure look like you could use some help." And I was used to that. People said that all the time, and they'd say, "Yeah, I sure do," and they'd walk on. And I said, "Yeah, I sure do." She said, "Well, you know what? I've got an hour. I'll help you."
Huh,
So in that hour, she rolls up her sleeves. We're gardening
that's
together.
so wonderful.
I know it was magical. It was Deborah Kill. So Deborah starts telling me about the nun network that she's a part of. And she said, "You would love these nuns. You would love these sisters. I'd love to connect you. Why don't you go to on a retreat with me? I've got one coming up next weekend." So I did with the Franciscan sisters in Clinton, Iowa. I loved it. I'm not Catholic. I loved it so much. So I got hooked up with the Nun Network, and I've been with them ever since that moment when Deborah decided to help me
Yeah,
garden
a
that day.
moment of kindness changed your life.
Yes, in many, many ways, because this Nun Network has taken me many places. So,
So
wow, where did we end up? Where are we in this parasite story?
in this story, so you were guided to go visit the monasteries, the
Yes.
nunneries.
Yes, because I was doing filmmaking at the time. I was a filmmaker, video documentary, like journalism only with video instead of words on paper. And so I knew these nuns and sisters and brothers had amazing stories to tell, and nobody told their stories because they don't have money to pay for these kind of stories. And they were stories of their spiritual connection to earth, eco-spirituality. And I've always been an environmental, activist. So I decided, you know what, just going to tell these stories. And so one of the Sisters of Loretto started me. They gave me money to seed my journey, which was a beautiful thing. And then from then on, it was part of the Nun Network. Once I was finished with that, they'd call the next place, the next state, and say, "Jeanette's coming with her dog Reg, and their dog sleeps with her, so you got to make sure he can be in the convent or the abbey." I did that all around the United States. It was
Oh,
amazing, amazing. So when I finished that year, 7 documentaries later, and all those convents and abbeys and monasteries later, Red ended up dying in my arms unexpectedly. Just he had been incubating a tumor the whole time we'd been traveling, and I thought he was just gaining weight, because I was gaining weight too. Because the nuns feed you really well, and so do the brothers and the priests. So when he died, it was like another voice just came in and said, Jeanette, you're free. It's time for you to finish the healing process alone. Go to the jungle and do your work there. And so I did. I began contacting biological field stations all throughout Central America saying, hey, I'm a photojournalist. I want to come and tell stories of what the scientists are doing to preserve rainforests and conservation. And no money. I don't expect any money. I just want to do it. I want to come and tell the stories. And I kept getting rejection letters saying, well, you're not a PhD. You're not a scientist. We can't let you in. Only PhDs. This is a sacred territory, sacred ground. You can't come. You can't come. You can't come. Well, there's one woman who owns this particular biological. She says, yeah, come on to Costa Rica. I'd love to have you. We'd love to tell our stories. That's how I ended up in Costa Rica. So every 90 days I had to leave because I was on a tourist visa. I wasn't on a journalism visa or an education. So every 90 days I had to hike out of the jungle, get on a boat, get on a bus, go to another country. So when I was in those other countries, I was going to raw, really edgy places to get stories. And those were places in the pueblos, way in the hinterlands, way out where there's no electricity, no running water, and just pits in the hole, everybody shares, and then there's no running water, so you don't have any hygiene. And then they'd make the tortillas and the empanadas, and they'd hand them to you, and you'd eat them. Didn't even think about parasites, to be honest. But when I started getting so sick, I knew they were parasites because I ended up with a big fat belly and little skinny legs, little arms. I kept losing weight. And so that's why I left the jungle. I had to get healed. So I went to San Jose, Costa Rica. They couldn't identify them. They had no idea what I had. And you can't cure them without knowing what they are because they each have their own treatment. And then Nicaragua, Managua doctors didn't know. So I thought, well, let me go to San Diego. They'll know and I'll come right back because San Diego is so close to Central America. I get to San Diego and the hospital, the clinic says, man, where have you been? We've never seen these parasites. And I've been in some pretty brutal places, including a garbage dump where I was teaching youth photography and filmmaking, how to tell their stories of what it means to live inside of a garbage dump and dream of a better future. So I really had some bad situations where I was, getting these parasites. So I'm in San Diego and they said, you know what, there's one place there's only one place we can send you. And that is St. Louis University's medical research facility for parasites. And that's in my hometown. I couldn't believe it. Almost 40 years later, 4 decades later, I end up in the very same place that I had left to do my life. And so I did. I came to St. Louis and ended up in the research facility. And the chief of gastroenterology said, there's nothing we can do for you other than take out your large intestine, put you on a bag, half of your small intestine, and a third of your stomach. You're nuts. You're crazy. No, I'm not going to do that. So I left. I checked myself out of that research and went to an acupuncturist and got healed. Took a year and a half, got healed through needles. And he lit the needles with fire to pull which was cool, very metaphoric for me because the primal scream was all about fire. So the final healing process for me was fire and needles, just
killing those parasites. It's like your old life, giving you a new one.
Yeah. Oh, I like that. Oh, I like that.
But I also want to share that you listen to yourself again. And, because a lot of people get told things by Western medicine doctors and they don't listen to themselves when they really know that that's not the right path for them. So for everybody listening, listen to your inner voice. And if you're basically told something that isn't right for you, at least get a second opinion. That's all I'm saying. Get a second opinion or try something else. You can always go back to the Western medicine doctor, always. And acupuncture is pretty mainstream now, I believe.
Yeah.
Been when you did it, but it is now.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about water.
Yeah. So water is its own little journey. I'm in the jungle and there's at the biological field, and about every 7 to 10 weeks, a group of scientists would come. And once they were gone, I was just living there alone. But when the scientists came, they'd come in a small group and do their studies. And one man he's a scientist, he comes with a group and he refuses to drink water. It's 110 degrees, 200% humidity in the jungle. It's hot and steamy. And for some odd reason, he just refused to drink water. And he almost died. He actually, I don't even know that he lived because once he got medevaced out, we don't have any communication, so I have no idea whatever happened to him after that. But he collapsed, and it was a chore getting him out because we were so deep in the jungle. And it's not like we had radio contact. We only had a marine radio because there's no electricity, there's no running water, there's nothing. You're totally off the grid in the jungle. So we get him out, and then who knows what happened after that. But boy, that got my attention. I thought, you know what? Whoa, I've always heard of dehydration, but I didn't know you could die from it. I didn't know you could almost die. I didn't know you could collapse and end up in a coma from it. So it just got my attention, and I started, as a journalist, everything becomes a story. So I started thinking, I need to learn about water. And I did. I just started learning about water. And years later, I, end up with Kangen water, which is a living water that is electrolyzed. So it's like lightning zapping running water in a brook, and it separates the water molecules. So it's better for optimal hydration. It goes right into your cellular structure, and it's an amazing kind of water. So I began drinking that. But yeah, that's how the water thing starts. It's an interesting thing as a journalist, and probably novelists are the same way with their fiction. They'll grab onto something. It's like, ooh, that would make a nice piece. That would be a good part of the story. So that's kind of how I ended up on the water journey.
And we're going to go back to and finish the water journey when we come right back. It's time for a break. Thank you.
I feel like I'm talking too much.
So this is for growth-focused entrepreneurs. Fire Connect is ideal for business owners who wants to have access to expert resources, who prioritize visibility and brand positioning.
I love how confident she is in what she does as a brand strategist. She helps other business owners build their business through collaboration and also building their brand.
Build lasting and in meaningful relationship.
I recommend this to anybody who wants to network or just meet new people in business.
Pay attention to what the challenge is, because if you know something of how you can help that person, then you want to have a meeting with it because there's an opportunity there.
I like the collaboration. It's not like most networking events typically, you just go in a room, people just go to who they know. And it's like, this is a little better, it gets you out of that comfort zone.
Yeah.
So that's what's good about this. That's something I like to see more, like instead of just going to people that's what networking is, something you don't know.
It's nice to be introduced to a new format. This forces us to learn about each other's businesses and get out of our comfort zones and really participate.
We want to make sure that we value our time and we're very intentional and we have a purpose for coming here.
And that's the whole goal of this networking, is to really, get to know each other in a deeper level, because not just the surface, not just an acquaintance, not just first time meeting, because this is partnership also. I mean, you're here, you're getting to know each other, you're creating. That's why you have to build lasting and meaningful relationships.
In Karate Legacy and the Power Within, we don't just teach karate techniques, we share the inspiring stories of incredible martial artists. Latino Gonzalez, the father of karate, paved the way for martial arts in the Philippines. His legacy lives on through his sons, Rolando and Roberto Gonzalez, who starred in over 100 Philippine karate movies, captivating audiences and bringing karate to the silver screen. Then we have Patricia Gonzalez, a symbol of strength and resilience. After overcoming her own battles, Patricia's journey embodies the spirit of perseverance. Her story encourages us to face our challenges head-on and emerge victorious. Each character in this book has a unique journey, friends and students who have dedicated their lives to mastering the art of karate. Their shared passion not only deepens their bond, but also strengthens their resolve to uplift one another. Through these compelling stories, Karate Legacy and the Power Within reveals the essence of karate: courage, unity, and the relentless pursuit of excellence. Join us in celebrating these extraordinary individuals and discover the strength that lies within you. Grab your copy of Karate Legacy and the Power Within, available now on Amazon.
Welcome back to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. I am your host, M. Teresa Lawrence. I'm here with my fabulous guest, Jeanette McDermott. And when we left off, she was talking about water, Kangen water. She sells it. And apparently it is very good water. So in addition to the Kangen water, which I want you to share the website for that later, what other projects are you working on now that you want to share with the audience? I understand that you have a book on the Black Madonna. What is that about?
Yes. The Black Madonna is, oh, she goes way back in time, early history. And it's an iconic painting of the Virgin Mother, Mother Mary, Jesus' mother. And over time, through incense burning and candles and all of the soot and all of especially the ancient churches, not the modern ones where they, burned everything, the painting became darker and darker and darker. And now she looks black. And so in a lot of new feminine theology, there's a belief that the Black Madonna was always black and that she represents, a whole new sacred feminine divine. So there's a whole, kind of almost religious, teachings around that. So I touch upon that in the book. But the book is really about the Black Madonna Shrine itself in Missouri, which is the only one of its kind in the entire United States. And it's almost in my hometown. It's only about an hour away from here. So I've been on pilgrimages. I walked labyrinths, part of this whole nun network thing. You get involved in these sacred rituals and retreats. And I heard about the Black Madonna Shrine in St. Louis. I thought, well, I got to check that out. So I was so fascinated by it and loved it so much, I kept going back. And on one of my visits, again, I got this divine calling. I really follow callings. And it was like, Jeanette, you need to write this book because nobody else has written about this. And you're really compelled to this location. So I did. And the cool thing about this story is a group of brothers from Poland were brought to this area, Eureka, Missouri, by the Archbishop. He invited them because they had a special calling for working with homeless men that were indigenous. And at that time, Missouri was really having, homeless population problem because after World War I, men were getting work. World War II was on the cusp, a lot of sociopolitical things. But the thing is, in Poland, the Virgin Mother is called Our Lady of Częstochowa, and Częstochowa is a particular place in Poland. And there's a rich history about why she's so revered in Częstochowa. So when these monks come to St. Louis, one of them in particular, Brother Bronislaus, felt a real deep devotion to honor and revere Our Lady of Częstochowa in Missouri. So he set out to build a shrine and grottos to beat the band that will just knock your socks off when you see these grottos, all by hand, one stone at a time, one wheelbarrow at a time. And he wouldn't accept any help because he felt this was his devotion to the Blessed Mother. And so when I started hearing that story, I said, oh my gosh, I've got to write this book. So it basically it called out to me. That's how I found out about that. So I wrote the book and it's in its final proofreading stages. I took all the photographs as a photojournalist. That was easy. And it's called The Pilgrim's Path. It's actually called Walk the Pilgrim's Path. And it's narrative photography, a little bit of history, a little bit of storytelling, a lot of photographs. So, and it's available for pre-orders for people that want to pre-order it and help me kind of boost it so I can get it published because I will self-publish.
Share where we can order it.
Yeah. Right now, it's my website's going to be launched soon. So right now I've got a preliminary website at JeanetteMcDermott.com. 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 And also you can subscribe to my newsletter, The Radiance Report, which is all about radiance and women in midlife and telling stories, like we've been talking here on your show, Teresa. So the book, I can take pre-orders, but there's nothing to click on right now. There will be in the very near future, like soon, but you can send me a message if you're interested and I'll put you on a mailing list, to learn about it when it becomes available. But you can go ahead and subscribe to The Radiance Report and get my newsletter bi-weekly.
And where can they order the water from?
So send me a message because it's only done through distribution with like certified international distributors, and I'm one of those. So the water is pretty amazing. I can tell you all about it. Can't go into it here because it's just too scientific and too involved. But the water I want to say it saved my life. The parasites took me down. I got healed, but they destroyed my gut biome, really bad digestion. So when I started drinking this water, and I've done water fasts since I was age 24. So I've done water fasts spring and fall, 10-day water fast, nothing but water, always with tap water. Oh my gosh, game changer. When I did my 10-day water fast with Kangen water, when I became a distributor 3 years ago, I couldn't believe the difference. Just the health, the healing aspect of this water just bringing me back to balance. So that's when I said, I'm going to sell this water because I wasn't a distributor at the time. I just took it for my own health. So
Right.
yeah, the water is pretty significant. Major, major, major. Yeah, I'd love to be able to talk about that at some point. So yeah,
Right,
reach
well,
out to
maybe
me.
we'll have you back just to talk about water. Well, I want to thank you for being on the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show. You've been a fabulous guest. And once again, if you want to reach Jeanette, her website is JeanetteMcDermott.com, JeanetteMcDermott.com,
Yeah.
because it is a radio show. So get a hold of her. And truly, she is a fabulous storyteller. And feel free to invite her as a speaker to speak at your organization because she has fascinating stories. I've really enjoyed this interview, and I thank you for sharing your story.
Teresa, thank you. This has been a pleasure. And my website's called The Radiant Way. And I'm going to interview you one day for The Radiant Way because you are radiant.
Thank you. So for everyone following me, please check out thetruenessproject.org or butterflymarch.com. I've got beautiful butterflies behind me because the last Saturday in June of each year, I host the largest gathering of people dressed as butterflies to honor transformation, because that's what we do as transformational leaders. And that's what we do when we share our stories, Jeanette. So thank
Yes, yes, it is. Comes full circle, doesn't it?
you. Yes. All right. Peace,
Thank
everybody.
Welcome to the Fabulous Lifestyle Radio Show, where we talk about food, fashion, finance, and foundations of life. We are live on KCAA Radio Broadcasting Network. KCAA is affiliated with CNBC, NBC News, and NBC Sports. We are sponsored by Sheltered Studios, Fire Connect, and Building Solid Foundation.